Welcome to today's class on Ukuzalwa wembethe. To one and all. Please can you let me know that you can see the slide, the presentation nice and clearly, and you can also hear me clearly as well. Please can you let me know that you can all hear me nice and clearly. Can you please confirm that you can all hear me and see the slideshow presentation clearly? Okay. Okay, sorry about the guys on YouTube. Sorry if it's a little unclear. Apologies for that. It'll get better. It should get better as the program progresses or as the class progresses. Thank you for everyone replying. So before we begin, we're just going to start. Okay, apologies. So sorry about that. Apologies for the technical issues. We were actually just trying to show you. Apologies for the technical issues on that front. I was trying to show you what it was an important video that I wanted to show you on Uti. What do we do when we cleanse somebody, when we masimgeza umuntu emlamba munye? Because quite a few people have been asking us how exactly we do it, and I wanted to show people exactly how it is done and also what to look out for. So we're not going to play the video because clearly the video is going to give us technical issues. So instead, what we'll do is we'll do the same thing as next week. Can you guys hear me loud and clearly, please? You all hear me nice and clearly? Okay, I just want to, okay, that's perfect. So I just wanted to show that video, but obviously it's probably not going to work. So instead, what we'll do today is we'll do the same thing as last week, right? Is any questions that you have from the lessons prior to this that you have written down there in your book, or questions that you didn't get to answer or that have left unanswered. It doesn't have to be related to Ukuzalwa and bembethe, but anything that you have burning in your mind from previous weeks or in general, please can you just drop it, and then I'll only take like 2 or 3 because we've got about 5 more minutes. It's 4 o'clock exactly. So I'll just take like 2 or 3 questions if they don't come in the next 2 minutes. Okay. Perfect. Apologies again for the sound, for the issues regarding, for the technical issues regarding the video. We were hoping to show you how we cleanse people. I think we have. Let me just see here. Okay, so this question here: how do we mix African spirituality and Christianity? There's a diagram that is going to explain how God, ancestors, and ourselves are all layered and how they all interact with one another. And this is going to be a lecture on its own. How we relate Christianity and African spirituality. Okay. Cool. Best times for uphahla at night. At night, just before you go to bed, that is the best time to uphahla because you want to record your dreams that you have whilst asleep. Okay. Your daughter is 6 months, but now we don't know what to do. Perfect. I mean, this is a perfect lecture for you. We can actually tuck into what exactly you need to do with imboyake if you've got it. Okay, is it necessary? What do you need? Absolutely not. You do not need to go to a healer or consult. But remember, when and when right? So by fixing your history and your lineage and mistakes done in the past and correcting you fix umsamo. And for that, you don't need umuntu laphayo. Hence, we are here and hence we're teaching you. So by the end of this course, you should be able to heal yourself and your families. Okay, so the rest of the questions I see here are to do with Ukuzalwa and bembethe. So we're just going to tuck in now into today's presentation. Thokoza sanibonani, and welcome to today's online education with Umsamo Institute. My name is Siyabonga African Kize, and thank you once again for taking the time on your busy Sunday afternoon to join us in learning how to heal ourselves, heal our families, and our communities at large. First and foremost, I'd like to wish all the mothers a blessed and happy Mother's Day. I hope you were spoiled rotten, and may God bless, may God and Abadala bless you with many more years to come. So, Ukuzalwa and bembethe is a very wide used term that people don't necessarily understand where it comes from, what it means, and also how to identify it. And from that understanding, from that lack of understanding, sorry, we land ourselves in a situation where there's a lot of exploitation, there's a lot of myths and incorrect healing practices, which leave people worse off than they were before. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to briefly recap, because I just want you guys to understand how we're building the course and the direction that the course is taking, so that you guys can understand that. So we've already spoken about the fundamentals. We've covered Isibongo. We looked at the ancestral implications of assisted conception, and then we looked at how we fix surnames that happen where problems occurred high up in our family tree. And then a very important lecture, we spoke about twins, Amakosi, and the duality of Imimoya, understanding Isnguni, Nesindawe, how they interact between the two, how to identify what kind of Imimoya you possess, how to heal that, how to treat that, how it's transferred from one family to another. But also, and then we went on and we looked at how twins come about, and understanding that the clash of Imimoya can result in twins, and we looked at the triangle of Imimoya and childbirth. So carrying on from that lecture, today I really want us to introduce the new, another law of African spirituality, the fourth law of African spirituality. And we're going to be looking at Ukuzalwa wembethe in context of our family history. So I hope you guys are sitting there with your pens and papers and your dream books that I asked you guys to purchase, in which is divided into two: Uphahla nempahlo nemibono, as well as your family history. The blessing. Then we'll look at children and the blessing that is children. Then we're going to really dive into Ukuzalwa wembethe, the types of wembethe, and with each type I'm going to tell you the physical or clinical manifestation, what it would look like when someone's born, and also how to treat that or heal Ukuzalwa wembethe. By the way, everything here that I'm going to tell you does not require you to go to a healer. Hence the purpose of this online education. We're teaching you guys, we're empowering you through education. Okay. So for those of you that have been following us, you'll know that the first law, everything in nature strives to max out its potential and reach its full expression. In that point, referring to the three parts of man: body, mind, and spirit. And then the second law is that everything in nature will strive to reach balance and equilibrium. So when when all three parts of you have reached full expression, okay, equal expression, equally fully expressed, then they should be in balance and perfect equilibrium. Then last week when I spoke about twins, Imimoya, we looked at the need or the desire for nature to always strive towards diversity and work against a homogeneous family or state. That also goes into genetics. That is why they say don't have part of the taboo around incest is the fact that you're reducing your genetic diversity by having a child with your sister or your brother. Same thing with Imimoya. They will try at all times to abazalwe will at all times try to have diversity of Imimoya emdeni. Okay. Then today is a fourth law, right? Which I'm going to take 2 minutes to explain, because I see on the timeline on Twitter, I see everywhere people calling themselves spiritually gifted, or no, ukuzalwa wembethe, they are spiritually gifted. Listen, guys, all human beings are spiritually gifted, no one more so than the other. However, the functionality of gifts will vary depending on the intended purpose of that gift in society at large. In other words, Mina, Nawe, Credo Mutwa, Dr. Nkize, we're all spiritually gifted people. The only difference between yourselves and them is how well you are connected to your ancestral gift. How well you're connected your ancestral gift, excuse me. 2, the connection to your ancestral gift and how well you get your ancestral gift to manifest itself through your craft. So everybody's spiritually gifted. I want you to check out this notion that some people are more spiritually gifted than others. That is absolute hogwash. All right? Yikunje emandulo ugenyangeni was only something you would do now and again. On the very rare occasion, something happened at home which was out of the ordinary because ulapa happened at home. So we're going back to that scenario where nizlapa ekhaya. Okay? So today, we're going to look at Ukuzalwa wembethe. And now, when you're sitting there with your family tree, the next layer or the next kind of question you're going to look at in your family tree is abazalwe bembethe. Okay? So if you're here in the middle, down there at the very bottom, you're going to look back at your mother and father and be like, okay, fine. Ma, we've gone through isibongo sakho. Ma, how did you get your surname? Baba, how did you get your surname? Ma, we've gone through imimoya. Uthi, ma, baba, unemimoya njani? Right? We've gone through amamela. Okay, ma, baba. Are you sure what are your niwele? How did you inherit imimoya? Now you're gonna go back to mama and baba and say, okay, fine. Oh, abazalwe bembethe like. That's the first thing. Second of all, we're looking at what type of ukuzalwa wembethe, okay? And also the generational frequency of ukuzalwa wembethe. In other words, in each generation, so if you guys see there on the left-hand side, each layer is a generation. So there's 4 generations here. I want you guys to find out how many people per generation bezalwe bembethe. And then from that, I want you to find out, we're going to be looking at how many people were initiated per generation. The reason why I'm saying this is because there's this trend which is growing of you have everyone or all siblings betwasa, but you know, about atwas, and then now utwas, atwas. That shouldn't be happening. Abadala select one. They choose one. Okay? And the only reason why, and I said this about 2 weeks ago, the only reason why Nina, all of you as siblings are suffering isn't because you're all necessarily are meant to be initiated, but because mhlambe uma wako or ubaba wako was meant to be initiated, but they didn't do that. Hence, imthelela is on ingane zabo, or their children. Okay, so these are the kind of questions. I hope you guys are writing down this question. This is the level or the depth that we're going into now when it comes to our family tree and our family history, right? So today we're going to speak of the blessing that is children, and I think I specifically chose this day to speak about ingane and the blessing that is children, considering that it's Mother's Day. We need to understand that there's 2 kinds of parenthood, biological and elected, okay? And no one is an owner. No one has ownership over ingane. No one owns nothing because yonke into oyitholayo emhlabeni, whether it be ingane, umuzi, imali, everything, even your craft, it belongs to abadala and God. You are simply a custodian with the responsibility of nurturing and furthering those blessings. Okay. So the first one is biological. That's when a man and a woman decide to have a child, whether it be naturally or medically assisted. This child comes from them and is therefore of them. Okay. The parents are the ones that must be thankful to the ancestors for the child. But in elected parenthood, this is someone who's choosing to love someone who may or may not be biologically be related to, and the child goes through them and is therefore from them. Okay, I want you to know the difference. So when I say elected parenthood, I'm talking about teachers that groom a child from the age of 5 all the way up until he matriculates. You have been a parent to that child. People who choose to mentor children from the age of 5 all the way up until adulthood until they get married as well. That is a form of elected parenthood. They did not come from you, but because they went through you in terms of the education and the love and the nurturing and the time spent with them, they are a product, or they come from that love, or they come from that wisdom that you have bestowed upon them by electing to parent them. Okay. In this instance, the child must be thankful to the individual and their ancestors. All right. So when we look at, if we put that in context of ukuzalwa wembethe, we then see that anything and everything in terms of ingane that is brought by abadala is a gift. And it is a blessing that we need to nourish and we need to cherish. For those of you that may or may not have listened to my sister conception lecture when I spoke about the difficulties when it comes to conceiving or having children, one of the biggest ones is sometimes if your partner already has a child, they move. They rejected that child. Right? And they were blessed. They rejected the child and they carried on in Biloya. When you come from a good home, from a good family, and from a good background, and now you want this man or woman to be your partner and have a child with, they already have a blessing that they did not appreciate. Okay? Hence, until they amend their past and their history, they cannot come and have a child with you. All right. So if you missed that lecture, not a bad idea to go to our YouTube channel and watch it again, so you can better understand conception and carrying to term from an African spiritual perspective. So when we look at ukuzalwa wembethe, I'll take questions now after the slide. Let me just go through it and then I'll take some questions. When we look at ukuzalwa wembethe, this is a spiritual phenomenon which has clinical manifestations. So we can see it clinically when the child is born, we can visually see it, but not all the time. But it is a spiritual phenomenon at nature, and it's simply put that individual is born with someone else. That individual is arriving to this realm of the living with another human being or another spirit that once lived. Okay. And this someone has an important role to fulfill, but we don't necessarily know what that role is. And wena as umzali, whether you're elected or biological, because you are a custodian of this blessing that has been given to you by abadala, your role, your responsibility, is to make sure you do everything in your power to aid this individual born with Lil Tonga, Noma, this spirit, to reach full expression so that it can fulfill its purpose. Okay. That is your function as a parent. That is your role as a parent. As a parent, it's very simple. Nurture, love, and groom. Those three concepts are very simple. You need to love your child. You need to nurture their body, mind, and spirit in terms of tonga. Yikho nje ingane uyayihlabela for imbeleko, uyayihlabela ukubonga abadala, uyayihlabela wenza umemulo. It's you're nurturing the spirit. Sending them to school, you're nurturing the mind. Feeding them every day, giving them good nutrition, you're nurturing the body. Okay. So back to ukuzalwa wembethe. When we talk about ukuzalwa wembethe, abantu bajahe enyangeni, and then they say, inyanga says, okay, fine, ukuzalwa wembethe. And then the person simply puts their hands up and say, okay, cool, ukuzalwa wembethe, that's great. What do I do now? And then inyanga will be fine. If you go for 5 days and then come back, or if you go for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or if you go bongo, when you are told ukuzalwa wembethe, these are the kinds of questions you're going to go home and ask you that you need to find out. 1, what type or category of ukuzalwa wembethe are you? 2, in terms of ukuzalwa wembethe, the person that is with you, usakwazi noma ikehla. Okay? 3, the name of the person that you are arriving with, lo muntu needs to have igama, and I'll explain to you why when we get into the types of ukuzalwa wembethe. And 4, which side of the family does the person come from? So you need to know to whom are you going to refer to. When you know which side of the family comes from, which side of the family do you need to go and find the family history with regards to that particular individual, and to whom do you need to ask to help you in healing or dealing with Tongo or wembethe. All right. So next time he'll assist you, if they can't answer these 4 questions for you, then what are they doing? Right? If they can't answer these, if you're going to say to me, you need to answer these 4 questions for me, then we can then take the healing process. Because depending on the answers to these 4 questions, you're going to see now, that will be the determining factor for the method of healing and the healing, the treatment program in place. Let me just answer and tuck into a few questions that I may have missed here. Okay, right. Let me just get to a few questions. Okay, okay, Uviwa says she was born prematurely. Does that have any impact on your life? Because okay, so if you're born prematurely, I'm not an obstetrician or gynecologist, so I'm not sure, but you need to you give me more information on your birth. Was it a C-section and you came out in an intact amniotic sac? What was the nature of your birth? You need to find out from your mother. Fine, I understand you were born prematurely, but how were you born? How did you come out? What did she see? What did the doctor see? What was she told when you came out of your mother's stomach or womb? Okay. Okay. I'm just focusing on the questions for today, guys, and then the other questions from the other topics we'll tuck into another time. Okay. Okay, so the surname issue, guys, we've already dealt with the surname. I just want to focus on ukuzalwa wembethe and just so that we can keep on track. Okay, is it possible ukwembatha umuntu osaphila? Okay. Guys, okay, I'm gonna actually answer this. This question is going to be answered whilst I'm actually going into the lecture, because this is one of the myths and you know, Linda, this obsession with ingubo or imbethe. There's a big obsession over it. But this question will be answered actually during the lecture, when Norma must book. But if I don't answer it and you feel it's not answered, please bring it back again and I'll answer it again at the end. But it should be answered at the end. Okay. Okay, please clarify ukuzalwa wembethe. I'm not sure I heard correctly. I heard Uti, the child is born with an ancestral spirit that once lived. Is there some kind of connection with reincarnation? I'll be saying yes, there is a connection with reincarnation. It's actually reincarnation is one of the 5 types. It's actually the 4th type of ukuzalwa wembethe is reincarnation, but I'm going to tuck into that now. Okay, so having spiritual twins means ukuzalwa wembethe. Having a spiritual twin means ukuzalwa wembethe. Yes, it does mean ukuzalwa wembethe. This is part of one. This is number 5 by Wele noma by umuntu of course. Okay, ukuzalwa wembethe. I'm going to explain that now in question number 5. But yes, to answer your question, yes, it does. Okay. Right, we're answering more questions here. How do you know ukuzalwa wembethe? I'm going to tuck into this. Okay, the rest of the questions here, guys, are questions that are going to be answered during the lecture. So let me just keep going, and I hope they'll make sense. If they're not, guys, I really have no problem if you copy paste and you put the message there again. I'm here to help and I'm here to teach. Right, the first one type of ukuzalwa wembethe, right? There are 5. This is when Itongo wants you to take the name of the ancestral spirit that you were born with. Medically or clinically, there's not really a manifestation. So this is the 1 and 2 you can't really see. When the moon is born, you can't necessarily see it, or it isn't visible. And the name of the ancestral spirit is an imperative. So if umuntu athi ngizalwe ngembethe, and I say to people that they suspect ukuthi bazalwe ngembethe, kumele ukuthi baphahle bathole igama. And once they have igama, they need to ask if leli gama is one that they must take on in terms of changing it at home affairs, right? So as those of you that have been following us will know, whether you change name or surname, kumele ukuthi kuhletshwe imbuzi ngoba imbuzi uyayithenga lelo gama noma uyayihlawulela lelo gama. You need to pay you need to have a spiritual payment for lelo gama so that you can use it, and you want that name to be blessed by the person who had that name, who is the owner of that name. So we start at imbos. Okay. So the reason why I say it does not necessarily have a spiritual manifestation, because it is a tricky one to identify, and sometimes it will not be obvious up until the age of maybe 20, 18, early youth. That's when it begins to manifest itself. She had a name before, and then only later on, in her late teens, early 20s, that we find out that wants her to take the name. Hence, we changed her name, So, but at the time, my parents never knew because, there was no clinical manifestation that we're used to, that we'll go through in a minute. So that is the first type that wants you to take on a name, right? So if you're suspecting that so all you need to do for this, it's very simple, guys. Find out the name. Once you have the name, find out, do I have to take the name? If they say yes, itati gama, shabi mbuzi ni pashem samo, right? You're going to speak to Lelo Tonga, saying, okay, singzwile, spanbani, here is your animal or spiritual sacrifice. Here is your spiritual payment for this name. Please bless this name. We're going to give it to our child. And then it's igazi. You're going to take the igazi, umswana, inyongo, ikihlanganise, ageze, afake isiphandla. I.e., blood. So it's blood, bowel contents, and the bile. Mix it together. She bathes in that. And then ispanja, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'm not sure if it's mainly a Nguni thing or if it's a black thing. I'm not sure. But I do know there's other cultures that don't necessarily wear ispanja. But that's secondary to the fact that what's most important is that payment together with those three items. And that's all you need to do. And then you're set for life. That's all you need to do. When it comes to wembethe, that's all you need to do. Okay? That's it. Nothing more. There's no need, uti, gobongo, and all those things. Anything else you need in terms of impande, Itonga will speak to you because now you've made the connection by taking on the name. Once you've taken the name, it'll say to you, okay, you know what? I'd like this impande. I'd like that herb, that mixture, that gobongo. Okay. And if they say they don't want anything, now it don't take anything if they don't ask for anything. Next one. Type 2. Type 2 does not require a name change, right? So sometimes umuntu azala wembethe and then mhlambe ngiyaphahla nithi no ngicela ukuthi sinikeze igama or give a name for this person that has arrived with our child, and they don't give you a name, right? That's indicative of the fact that they don't necessarily want you to take the name. All that needs to happen in that case, you need to welcome and embrace Leli Tonga, or this ancestral spirit that has come with this child by use of a goat. So ubaba wasekhaya or ubamncane or the eldest male or whomever, uthenga imbuzi emhlophe, a white goat, and you're going to slaughter the goat, and you're going to say, we'd like to welcome this individual who has come with Lengane and has been born into this family with this child. We welcome you and we embrace you into this family. Here is your animal. Here is your sacrifice. Again, mixed blood, bile contents, and bile for bathing, and then you're done. That's it. That's all it is. It's a simple process of welcoming into the family. And then I know it seems so simple, and I know a lot of people are going to say to me, yes, but Sabang, I've been struggling with this for years, manje. I've eaten igobong ezu 100. I've gone to inyanga ezu 100. Occam's razor says that the most truthful and honest explanation to any problem or scenario is always the simplest. That's why it's so simple. Okay, so there's no need for you guys to constantly be eating ikobong. Ikobong is not going to work if lelo thonga does not want ikobong. Lelo thonga lifuna ukuthi ligezwe, guys. A lot of the time ithonga lifuna ukugezwa, because once ithonga liyageza, then ithonga can communicate. When ithonga can communicate, they can tell you what they want, whether it be ikobong or whether it be nothing at all. Okay. So now we're getting into the third and probably the most popular, and the one who's a type of ukuzalwa that everyone knows of, right? The third type is ukuzala unqambile. Now, ukuzala unqambile, I know a lot of you are thinking it's like that picture there where the child is wrapped, where the child has the umbilical cord wrapped around the neck. Ukuzala unqambile is a word which describes a group or a variety of clinical manifestations when the child is born. All right. So in other words, when the umbilical cord wrapped around the neck, the clenched fist that has something inside, sometimes it's like fat, or anything that's inside the fist. Sorry guys, I'm not an obs and I'm not an obstetrician or gynecologist. Whether you're born with a full amniotic sac, as you see there in the picture, or sometimes the amniotic sac is only simply around the head, that is ukuzala unqambile. So ukuzala unqambile is any one of these type of manifestations over here. Now, this is imimoya twasa. So these individuals that are born like this, or itonga requires or would like to be uktwasa. Right, sidebar. Just because kumele ukuthi uthwasa does not mean ukuthwasa kwakho requires ukugobela. Okay. Those of you that are struggling with ukugobela saying no, kumele ngiyazi ukuthi kumele ukuthi uthwasa ngoba ngizalelwe ngiqambile, I've gone to 1,000,001 ukugobela but abadlala ngami. You might have it that wants to self-initiate. That does not require ukugobela. That was a sidebar. Back to the lecture, but I'm going to tuck into uktwasa and ubizo and all those things. I'm going to tuck into that in another lecture. That was just a bit of a sidebar. So ukuzala unqambile is a group. It describes a group of manifestations. Okay, these individuals, 99% of the times, those are the ones abazodingwa ukutwasa. Now, the only problem with these individuals is that it's finding out one, do you need ukugobela utwasa? Or do you have a self-initiated gobela? A lot of people jump straight from that question through to question two, which is nitwasa kanjani? Who's going to be my ugobela? So the reason why a lot of people, these people, right, they struggle with a lot of things spiritually is because they don't sit back and say, wait, maybe Eternal Lamb wants to self-initiate. Let me find that out first. Lathi makhandlela indishamans ukhuluma. Thokoza bogcwabe. Cela ningikhanyisele la whether or not niyafuna ukugobela. If ukhona ukugobela enimfunayo, cela nimveze. Sometimes bangamvezi, and if bangamvezi yingoba bamfuna ukugobela, Eternal is going to initiate themselves. And in that instance, you go back and you say, okay, fine. If ningamfuni or mhlamba ukugobela enimfunayo, ukugobela is not available and you don't want to go to ukugobela and you want to self-initiate, please guide the path for me to give you impande nemithi negobongo that you would like for yourself to initiate. Do you see? So ningajaha ukugijima enyangeni and say, well, no, ngizalwa bembethe, okay, ngidinga ukugobela, then ukugobela says fine, uzothwasa nakimi. Come on, you know. So back to ukuzala unqambile. I'll answer questions after this now. Ukuzala unqambile, right? Once you know ukuzala unqambile, you need to find out, am I a water or a land spirit? In other words, nginesinguni, nginesindawo. right? Because obviously, you know, those of you that, I think if you didn't listen or missed out on last week's lecture on Imimoya, then this is going to be a little difficult for you guys to follow, because we tapped into a lot on the differences between the land spirits and the water spirits, and how they healed and how they are taken care of. So please, guys, if you've got questions relating to that, you need to go back to that lecture. It's on our YouTube channel, for those of you that don't have Facebook. So after you have determined whether or not you are a land spirit or a water spirit, you need to determine whether or not you need to be initiated, and how you need to be, and are you a self-initiating spirit or not? Okay. So for those of you, for those of you who do not have the amniotic sac or the umbilical cord, okay, it is not the end of the world. It is fine. Do not try hunt it down. Do not try stress about. No, don't even waste your time looking for it, because what you have, like I said, right? These kind of manifestations, whether it be the fat in the hands or the umbilical cord around the neck or the amniotic sac, all of those are simply signs. That's all they are. You know what I'm saying? It's no different to umuntu actually don't pass like, you know, you can't do anything with it, because what you are born with is in here. It's spiritual, and no one can take that from you. You know, and anything that they do try to, you know, anything that they do try and manifest using ingoya kunoma, your umbilical cord, or, you know, it's not going to last long. And even then, it's over shire down the road, because it's not theirs in the first place. Yeah, well. So, and then for those of you that do have it, right? If you do have the amniotic sac, or you do have the umbilical cord that you were born with, okay? In that instance, you are the ones that I'm saying you can go and consult. I say, okay, fine. In that instance, you can go and consult. But only after you have, one, welcomed umuntu ozalwe wembethe. Two, find out if there's a name, whether or not you require a name or not. And three, you must go through this entire process here, finding out what kind of spirit are you. Do you have a self-initiating tongue or not? Once you have answered all of those questions, once you've answered these questions, as well as the 4 questions at the beginning of this lecture, then you can go and do your class. Okay? To the mommy-to-be or the parents that are still going to be having children, in the event your child is born like this, take the amniotic sac, sign the indemnity form or affidavit or whatever it is, and take the amniotic sac home. Okay? The umbilical cord, take the umbilical cord home. Sometimes what would happen, right? Let's say you have kunezinto that are manifesting themselves physically in terms of ukugula, nokulimala, or any kind of physical ailments. What would help is, you see, obviously, manje, the amniotic sac and the umbilical cord is dry. You would take a little bit of it, like less than a fingertip of it. Crush it. You'd burn a coal, and then you would burn a little bit of your umbilical cord, and then and then you would sniff in a bit of the umbilical cord, just so that it helps to alleviate, you know, lemoya evugayo manje yedlozi. That's how it helps, if you've already got it. Right? I'm speaking to those that already have it. So you can use it, not a lot, because this thing is not a lot to your whole life. You know, literally less than a nail, half of a nail. You know, burn a little bit, smoke it, and then just to alleviate imimoya, because sometimes imimoya no issues, and then it can be, because these are metaphysical beings that are as old as time, and imzimba yethu is very fragile. And sometimes they can manifest themselves physically, and they can actually just put a lot of burden on us physically, as well as mentally as well, because our bodies are very fragile, and they only are good for a good 80 to 100 years or so, whereas these spirits are over 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years old. So it helps to calm issues in the mimoya, especially when you're going through a lot of physical ailment. Right, and then the fourth kind, I just want to see if there's any other questions. Okay. Let's go through some questions here. I'm just going back as far as I can. Okay, we're gonna hide that one. Okay, so Unkanyisa is saying, "Ukuzalwa wembethe, my partner dreamt I had to take 2 wives. Is the second wife for my twin?" Okay. So it is possible that the second wife can be for your twin, right? There was a case that we dealt with in which there was a man and a woman who were married, but the woman kwangajena uzalwa wembethe, and yena uzalwa wembethe ikehla, right? So lel kehla was like, it's fine, stay with your husband. I'm happy with you being with your husband, but ufuna unkosikazi wakhe. Ikehla wanted his wife, and then she took a wife, right? But she's not gay. I'll explain that next week. In this next week, I'm going to be discussing LGBTQI, homosexuality, and everything anymore. Yeah. So we're not going to tackle into that right now. But simply put, your question, yes, it is possible that the second wife is for your twin. So right? You and your wife need to, both of you, istolo, checkers, or whatever, buy a dream book, and you need to start recording your dreams. And I'll tell you why I think that you're correct, that it's a second wife, that your second wife is for your twin, that you might, I don't know, need to take a second wife. Isikhathi esiningi when you need to take a second wife, abadala are not silly. Ngeke bafika kuwena as umyeni. Okay? Bazoya kunkosikazi. Because the person who was meant to bring unkosikazi wesibili must be unkosikazi wokuqala. Okay. Because in order for his temple to work, and that lokho kuzwana is only going to be possible if the first wife brings the second wife. So you're correct. There is a chance that you might need to take a second wife for your twin. You know, or plot twist, your wife, because like I said, when it comes to abazalwe, they attract one another. But imimoya must pose. But in terms of wembethe, people like attracts like. When I'm also wembethe, chances are now your wife is wembethe. Yeah, she might be wembethe, and the second wife is not for you, but it's for her. I'm going to explain to you, but for those of you that are wondering how the second wife can be for the twin, I'm going to explain to you when we get to 5. 5, yeah, number 5. Okay? Okay, Mkhulu, what do you do when uzalwa wembethe, then ingubo yalahleka? What do I have to do? You don't have to revive it. You don't have to find it. You don't have to look for it. What you need to do, leyo ngubo is just indicative of imimoya that you are born with. Okay, so what you need to do is qala shabimbozi, welcome the person that you are born with. Okay, nithule nibuye. Right? If the person wants you to take the name, bazofika babuye bathi no lo uzoba usibanibani. Ngiyabona ukuthi igama lakho says Usizwe. Mhlawumbe bazothi no lo uzoba uzwelbathi, for example. Right? Ikehla wembethe bekuzwelbathi. Right? Then ninake niyemsamo, you slaughter a goat, you like to bless the name, then you go to home affairs and the workplace, everywhere, and you change your name to Uzwelbathi. And people, guys, if you are born with Itonga that wants you to be a name change, you must stop listening. Don't listen to anybody that refers to you by your old name. You must respect and appreciate the new name, and you must fight for people to respect and recognize the new name, right? Only then, obviously, let Itonga communicate. That's the first step. Once you've welcomed Itonga, then Itonga is now in the house and then is now within you, and they can communicate. They can tell you whether they want you to be a name change. They can tell you whether or not before you to be initiated. They can tell you, are you going to self-initiate or are you going to go to Ukobela? Okay, so there's no need to revive it. do those steps that I've identified, Nimbuzi, welcome umuntu, look for a name change. Is it necessary? Is it not necessarily necessary? Yes, change the name, but first, blessed Nimbuzi. Okay. This whole thing of I'm going to tack into the myths and incorrect healing practices at the end. This is one of them, reviving ingub. Okay, next question. Okay, ukuzalwa wembethe kuyakwazi ukuphazamisa ama-relationship akho. Most definitely it can, but in the same breath, it can also bring the right person. Okay, so those of you that are on Twitter, you know, when they speak about Thokoza Koko and people are like, no, would I date someone from Thokoza Twitter? And I keep saying to people, sometimes the reason why relationships don't work is because the person that they want is ukuzalwa wembethe, if when ukuzalwa wembethe, because they want, like I said, like attracts like. If someone has imimoya yedlozi elifuna ukuthwasa, they're going to want to pair you with someone who's like that, you know? So to answer your question, yes, it can, in that all your relationships could fail because bafuna ukuthi umuntu as well. Right. Okay. Next question. Okay. If they say unomfweni twin and you always see isibonakaliso, does that mean you were born umbethe? Okay. I'm going to explain this now, guys. I'm going to explain. This is number 5. I'm going to explain this now. Do hospitals keep a record of the details of the birth? Like, would they specify that baby so and so ukuzalwa wembethe? I don't think so. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture, right? And I'm going to chat to a couple of friends of mine who are Ghanese. So I'm going to take a picture. And I'm going to ask them what do records look like. But I don't think so. No. I don't think they have to record that. I don't know. Actually, no. You know what? Let me not lie to you. I don't know. And if the doctors here, nurses, please can you comment below whether or not babies do. I'll also ask some friends of mine who are doctors and obstetricians and gynecologists, but I don't think so. I don't know. I can't answer that. Okay, Umbuso yabuza here. Please explain the difference between ukuzalwa wembethe nokuzalwa wembethwe. Okay, it's semantics. Ukuzalwa wembethe. Same thing. It's just different. It's semantics when it comes to igama lesizulu, right? I think logo wembathwa comes from a different. It comes down to really just it's semantics really. But same with amakosi and amawele. Some regions use the word amawele, some regions use the word amakosi, but at the end of the day, they're describing twins. So there's not really a difference between the two. Okay. Okay. Right. So uThembeka saying ukuthi umbethwe ugogo wasekhaya umalume mama kumele ngilungisele khona yini uma ucacile ekhaya. Okay, Thembeka, can you please give me more information? Ukuzalwa wembethe wakho, so I can better advise or better answer the question. But I understand. Basically, uThembeka is saying ukuthi yena umbethwe ugogo wasekhaya bomalume. So basically, ugogo, so her grandmother's on her uncle's side, right? Bomam. Kumele ngilungisele khona yini. So I also want you to find out ukucaca kwabo bekunjani. Was it umgcagco ophelele noma was it or there bits and pieces missing? Can you please give me more information about ukuzalwa kwabo? I want to find out more about that part, yeah, ukuzalwa kwabo. And also I need more information on ukwembatha kwakho. That's what I want to know. That's what type are you? How much details do you have in terms of the type? That's what I want to know. Okay, Unotula says, sorry guys, yeah, there we go. Unotula says, my mom says I was born blue and I had no oxygen. What does this mean? Is it another part of ukuzalwa wembethe? Born blue with no oxygen? No, it's not a form of, it's not a manifestation of ukuzalwa wembethe, But what might, please ask, if your mom says you're referring to past tense, so I was not around. If you're born with no oxygen, see, I'm not a doctor, so I can't say to you, but I'm thinking it's because the umbilical cord was around your neck and you couldn't breathe. That's what I'm thinking is causing you to be blue in the face. And guys, and I'm trying to think. You need to find out what you can find out whether ubungwambile or not, because I think the umbilical cord around the neck is possibly the reason why you were blue in the face and didn't have the oxygen. Okay. Is it possible wembethe more than one ancestor? Maybe ikesha from my mom's side, nekesha from my dad's side. Yes, but it's maybe 0.01% prevalence. It's very, very low, very, 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 very rare, and one will be more dominant than the other. But yeah, very rare, very rare. I need you to give me more information, so I can better answer you, because you see, you have an ancestral spirit, right? And there are times when there's going to be two. It is possible, but it's very, very rare. Sometimes umuntu can be wele, right? Vanishing twin syndrome, okay? And then I have my own as well, right? So that's how you can sometimes have two. So you can have one from there and then one from there. But I'm gonna explain that now. Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Mbeda, for actually bringing this up, because guys, don't stress if your nurse stole ingube. You know, they're saying most nurses feel that if Mauzale ingube. Okay. Look, to those that are watching this and are thinking of stealing it, or those that know people that are thinking of stealing it, or know people that are selling, I know it's like a black market thing as well. Utenga ingubo yomntwana. Guys, it's not going to do anything for you. It's not yours. It's an ancestral thing. It is not your house. It is not yours. The stealing ingubo yomuntu because inyanga said find me ingubo bese niggas in cash. Lo nyanga iyakuthwalisa. Akafuna ukukutshela uyakuthwalisa, because there is no way you can take what someone else is born with and make it your own. Okay, ingubo is simply a form of manifestation. It is a number. Think about it this way, right? If you go to someone's house and you take the number off their wall and you put it on your house, does your house does that mean that your house now is the same value as that house? No, it doesn't. It just means you've taken the identifier or the marker. Okay. Okay, like I said, guys, I'm not sure if Indabes Panja is a Zulu thing or a Nguni thing, but I do know that the processes of dealing with ukuzalwa bembethe apply universally, right? If you don't waste, if Kaya you didn't waste Panja, then don't waste Panja, but do the process of ukuhlanganisa igazi nomntwana nenyongo ugeze. Don't waste Panja. Ngoba Kaya didn't waste Panja, that's fine. It's not going to be there. It's not going to impact the success of the process. Okay. Why would they do that? Why would they do what? Please, can you give us a bit more answers there? Why would they do what? What is Gobonga in isiXhosa? What is Gobonga in isiXhosa? I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure. I must find out. Any Xhosa speakers, please. Basically, Gobonga is ancestral, is impande or imiti, which is specific for Itong. So those who are Xhosa that can please help answer this question. I'm not sure what it is. Anyway, let me go back to the lecture so we can carry on. Right, so now we're looking at the last two. Sorry. Okay. So reincarnation is ukuzalwa bembethe type number 4, right? This has can or cannot have manifestation. So sometimes umuntu engazalwa ngqambile and also be a reincarnation. That is possible. So it is a possibility where you can be more than one type of ukuzalwa wembethe, and that the lines can be blurred between the types, right? That is possible. That does happen. Okay. So this part kind of goes against the Christian belief that we all pass away and go to heaven and do not return. But like you'll see in the lecture that I'm going to give in 2 weeks' time on African spirituality and Christianity, we choose. There's certain parts and pieces of Christianity that you can choose that you can work with, and some that you cannot work with. For us, reincarnation is a fundamental of who we are. It is a fundamental of African spirituality, reincarnation. Okay. So these individuals are individuals that when you refer to them, they're like, oh no, but you seem like such an old soul, or you're very wise, or they're able to recall things that took place in the 1800s, almost as if they were there. And the way in which they describe events and the way in which they articulate their thoughts is very incoherent and difficult to understand, because essentially they are living and they have a living body, a living autonomous brain and mind, but their spirit is from 200, 2,000 years ago, So you have this clashing from two different this information or this knowledge and wisdom coming from two different realms and coming together and expecting someone to be able to comprehend and understand that and articulate that in a coherent manner is very difficult. Hence, that reincarnation, we cleanse it and so that Ito can better communicate with the individual and so that they can make sense. So this kind of manifestation occurs especially in Ghana, right? And kunengane that almost seem antisocial, and they'll come across as antisocial. They come across as they don't want to do izino, and they do, and they are administered medication in the Western medicine, and they're given they are diagnosed with a mental illness of sorts, and they can't explain their thought processes coherently, Utholingane ivele izonda uthisha wakhe for no apparent reason, kanti lelo thongo in that child and lelo thongo in the teacher baxabana years ago or decades ago. So the way to handle this is you first need to cleanse it again with a coat. Cleanse lolo thongo, lela thongo that is arrived, that is a reincarnation in this child or this person. Right, so that the communication can be clearer, okay? Because these individuals have a rich knowledge and wisdom that comes from a millennia ago sometimes, and we need it expressed. And unfortunately, it's so sad. I feel my heart goes out to these individuals because the world doesn't understand it, and the world struggles to comprehend the words or the wisdom coming out of the mouth of these individuals, and they go to their graves having written, may or may not have written down, but only years afterwards do we understand what they were speaking about, or do we understand what they were going through or what they were trying to say. So please, I beg of you, if you or your neighbor or your nephew, you can see that it's almost as if the person, it's almost as they, the best way to say it is they come across as an old soul. That is where the saying, that's where the English saying comes from. Okay, so the next type of wembethe is the one that you guys have been asking me about. It's the one that comes from Iwele, Noma, Amakos, twins. Okay. There is a phenomenon known as the vanishing twin syndrome, which, in my opinion, is possibly the best explanation for how one can be Iwele without knowing that they would be Iwele. Okay. And that what happened, this is the first, and the second one is if there is, as if that twin passes away, right? I'm going to just briefly speak on the twins passing away so that I can just refresh your memory for those of you that didn't watch last week's lecture. In the event a twin passes away, the other twin needs to lie in the grave or the hole with the other two. Both twins must lie in the grave in the hole at the same time at some point during the funeral. The reason for this is because, as you can see in the diagram, these children share an ancestral spirit. They share it between the two of them, but there's two bodies. So by them sleeping together or lying together for 2-3 minutes or whatever the case may be, for that moment, you are saying that lemimoya that we share must go with you. You must remain with it, and it must stay with you, and it must move on, right, with it. Okay, because in the event you don't do that, the other twin can come back and say and fetch the other one, because you can't have imimoya 50% living, 50% dead. All right, that can't happen. You risk that case taking place. Or alternatively, what can happen? So that's what can happen. Okay, so now I'm going to in the syndrome. Let me actually go to this next diagram so it makes sense. So the vanishing twin syndrome, these are for the new ones that didn't watch it last week, is essentially when there are two twins at the time of conception. Then the one, after a couple of weeks or a couple of months, the next scan is no longer there. So it's almost seen as if it vanishes. The fetal tissue of that twin that passed away, in inverted commas, is reabsorbed into either the mother, the placenta, or the other twin. Okay? And this is, or the other twin. All right? So now, because of access to ultrasounds, access to ultrasounds even in 2020 is not as great as we think. It is still a resource which quite a few South Africans may struggle to access, especially antenatal care. And an ultrasound is how you are able to ultrasound in week 1 or trimester 1, and then an ultrasound in trimester 3 is how you would know, okay, fine, I had a twin, and then it didn't, and now I don't have a twin. All right. And so that's why you guys are seeing in the comments, a lot of people are actually finding out now that they were a twin, because the fetal tissue from your twin that you shared a womb with is in you, or is a part of you. Hence, unemimoya yakhe. Hence, you are. Hence, this is a form of wembethe. Wembethe iwela lakho. Your wembethe, your twin. Okay? And for those of you that, again, last week when I spoke about spiritual diversity emdenini, everyone will be destined for someone. And in Mhlawumbe, your twin was to marry a certain man or woman, okay? But now, because they're not alive and their spirit is within you, Luamdeni still wants you to marry that man or woman because they want that spiritual diversity in the family, and your family also wants that as well. Okay, probably so that this doesn't happen again, and that if there is a twin, that both twins make it. That's also, I'm just postulating that could possibly be a reason why they want that spiritual diversity in the family. So it is definite. So this is the last and final type of ukuzalwa wembethe, is which you are a twin that you don't know about, and there is a possibility that I'm not necessarily sure. Again, I'm not an obstetrician or a gynecologist, that the vanishing twin syndrome may or may not have occurred to yourself and your mother, and that is how you reabsorb the fetal tissue of your twin, and now and that is how you are a twin without you actually knowing that you are a twin. And now the reason why your mom doesn't know or your dad doesn't know, sometimes ultrasounds, maybe your mom and dad didn't have an ultrasound when you were born, and that's how. Okay, so now to conclude, and then I'm going to answer all the questions, the myths and incorrect healing practices around abazalwe bembethe. Guys, ukuzalwa bembethe is it's straightforward to deal with. Cleanse itongo, welcome itongo, so that itongo can communicate. The only difference between wena nomuntu that wasn't ukuzalwa bembethe is that you have an extra 2-3 steps to do. But the goal for everyone is the same, in that we all need itongo to communicate to us, to tell us what they want and what they require from us. Okay. So the first one is this obsession with bringing back or reviving or restoring ingubo, right? Some people say no, get a pregnant goat and then the mesentery, and that'll act as ingubo yakho. And then other people say and then that'll be ingubo yakho, and then hang it in some, and then now and again if you're having physical ailments or anything like that. Or some people say using imbuzi, ekhulelwe, a pregnant goat, is more spiritually powerful, for lack of a better word, than a normal goat. But wait, that is all fallacious. All of that is just nonsensical, right? There is no way of bringing back what has been lost. If it's gone, it's gone. And the reason why Emandulu didn't have a contingency in place for bringing back ingubo is because they knew that ingubo is just upa. It's just a marker, an indicator that this person is arriving with someone. And again, I go back to my analogy, right? If someone steals the number off the front of your house, right? If you live at 13 Garangua Avenue, I don't know, and someone takes the number 13, does the value of your house go down? No, it doesn't. You know, the same way that but the value of your house remains the same. You know, doesn't mean you must run out and buy a new number. No, you don't have to buy a new number. You know, it will still be 13 Garangua Avenue because it has been assigned to you and it will remain that way. Okay, so we need to reject this idea of bringing back ingubo, restoring ingubo, reviving ingubo. Like, just reject it and forget about it. What you need to focus on is, one, okay, welcome itongo, welcome the spirit, cleanse the spirit, communicate with the spirit. In that order, guys. Okay, once the spirit is communicating, it'll say to you, no, igama lam uzwelbanzi, thatha igama lam. Okay, not a problem. Uhlabela igama. No, okay, fine. Igama lam uzwelbanzi, but ngifuna ukuthi uthwase. Okay, not a problem. Uthwase. Okay, igama lam uzwelbanzi, ngifuna ukuthi uthwasile. Cela uthathe unkosikazi wesibili. Oh, okay. Do you get what I'm saying? Once itongo is communicating, okay, then you can begin to get somewhere. So the key, and that's when we step away as Umsamo Institute. That's our goal, guys. Our goal is to have a nation of abantu that are communicating their tongue and they're understanding what itongo and funani, and they're able to. Once you can do that, there is no need for you to come see us, to see Dr. Mkhize. That's what people say, what do we do at Umsamo Institute? We just make sure that you guys can communicate. That's it. Okay, guys, so that is the end of the presentation. I'm gonna spend the last 15, 20 minutes or so just answering all the questions. I'm gonna try to get through all of them because we do have a bit of time. Okay. But do they keep a record if ingane zalwa bembethe? I don't know. I really don't know. I do think you should. I tell people all the time, record the birth. I know you're well within your rights to bring a video camera in and record the birth of your child. That's probably a good idea. Maybe go back to the home videos and search for that. Okay. I was told that wembethe by more than one healer. Okay, but born in this at the same time, possible to have. Okay, okay. So I've spoken about this tunya before. Let me explain. Wonke umuntu unetonga. That's an ancestral spirit, body, mind, spirit. Isithunywa is a messenger or from the governing body of itongo that directs you to how you should use your ancestral gift after initiation. So Istunya arrives after initiation and says to you, Istunya will say to you, be a priest, be nyanga, be a chemist, be isanus. That makes sense. Okay. So if ukuzalwa wembethe, go through that process of those questions, right? You don't need to go back to those healers. Go information in the history, right? Go through those questions, answer those questions. Okay, fine. I need to welcome this person in. Welcome Itongo. Take the name if there needs to be a name. Let Itongo communicate and take it from there. Once Itongo is communicating, it'll let you know who's meant to initiate you if it wants Ukuzalwa to initiate. But to answer your question, yeah, I guess you can have both at the same time, because at the end of the day, remember, Itongo is the one that goes through the initiation process. So Utwasa Itongo, Istunya determines the final outcome in terms of what kind of healer you're going to be and how you're going to use ancestral gifts. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so Grace Uti. So now if you're named after one of the grandmothers from the father's side and all passed on, no one to ask what should one do, and we're both South Sutu. Okay, so igama is very important, Grace, and you just need to find out if you have the right name. Because mhlambe, you're saying that no one is around. Mhlambe, they may have done everything for you when you were still born, but they may have done everything for you already. And you may have the right name already. All you need to do is uphahle for igama lakho, noma igama letongo. So ngesikhathi uphahla, be specific and ask for igama letongo, noma idlozi olwembethe. All right. That's what you need to look for. So it is harder, guys, if you have no one to go back to and have this kind of conversation with. But then the kind of questions that you would be asking your grandmother or grandfather, were they alive, you need to be asking Amatonga as well. And they will come back and they'll answer you. But yeah, Grace, you need to find out whether the name you have is igama leshlos. That's what you need to find out. Sorry, better. Find out if igama leshlos. Bacele for igama leshlos lakho. That's what you need to ask. Okay. There is ikobongo and ipush. What is the difference between the two? Okay. So ikobongo is for abantu, that is mainly for abantu abane singuni. Right? Those are the land spirits. Ipushu is a type of ikobongo specifically made for abantu abanesindawe, which is the waterborne spirits. Okay, hope that answers your question. So depending on whether unesindawe will determine whether usha ikobongo or ipushu. Hope that answers the question. Okay, so someone asking for personal contact number. Please just send email at guys. For any people with personal issues and they worry that they can't put their personal issues here, please email us at umsamo.org.za and we'll respond to you there. Okay. Is it imperative to twasa if uzalwa wembethe with a full amniotic sac? No, depending on what itongo wants, right? So you need to understand, Guti, guys, the key is to communicate. The itongo must communicate. Okay. And if itongo is not saying twasa, then ushuti alfunu twasa right now. It's a self-initiating itongo, you know, because guys, in Dabien twasa is so open, it is so, there are so many different forms of twasa. You know, Abadala work at a very different system to us in that the wisdom, they draw spiritual wisdom from experiences, from the most absurd or the most unique experiences that we go through. You know, something like a short course for 6 months, they can draw, that's part of Twasawa. But to answer your question, you need to find out what itongo wants. Is it imperative? If itongo is it imperative? If you're born with an amniotic sac, most people who are born with it go on to twasa. That's what I will say. Most people who are born with an amniotic sac that's intact go on to twasa. That's what I will say. But like I said, you need to find out whether or not you have a self-initiating itongo, how exactly if one to twice. I'm just trying to find this comment now so I can remove it, so I can keep track and make sure all the questions get answered. Okay, I'm just trying to go back to that question. Oh, where is this now? Okay. Okay, sorry, I'll definitely remove the question of the slide. Okay, so here's it. Thank you very much, Similani. Doctor here, no, they don't record anything about it. So those of you that were wondering if our doctor and nurses record anything about ukuzalwa wembethe, here's your answer. Apparently they do not. So I guess that's something that we gotta try and at Usama Institute, huh? Yeah, no, we'll definitely try. We'll definitely try and encourage that. But we'll begin by educating the general public. Imbulwa kanjani? Imbulwa kanjani? Ngicela ubuza imbulwa kanjani? Imbulwa kanjani ingubo? Are you referring to ingubo uthi imbulwa kanjani ingubo? Is that what you're referring to? Okay. No, it doesn't. It doesn't stop. I miss impilo. It doesn't necessarily stop impilo, Baba. Oh, okay. I understand the Miso question. So, Miso, you remember when I was speaking about people who are reincarnated? From what you are describing that you are going through, you speak like someone who may have that. That's what you speak like. You're speaking like someone who may have that. So, in my opinion, ngicela ukuthi ugade imibono amaphupho. Abantu that are reincarnated, they dream as much as they have vision. Sometimes having a vision is just having a dream, but you're awake, right? But awulali. So you need to be cautious of what you see, especially awake. Note your visions as well as your dreams. like you can get clarity on the visions and the dreams. But yes, you are correct. You can definitely, you're definitely speaking like someone who's a bit of an old soul. Okay. Okay. Right, I'm just trying to, guys, I'm just lost and I'm just trying to get through all the questions. So guys, I'm only going to take a few more, running out of time because this is meant to be an hour and a half. So we're going to take just 2 more. Okay, ngizalwe sesigubhini kodwa abazalwe bami bacaca manje sengidala ugogo selivezile igama lakhe kumele yini ngiwamukele ekhaya kithi noma kumele ngiye ekhaya bomama. Okay, so ngoba usuganile, right, usuyingane yala wemuzi noma umndeni la ugane khona, so you need to do it la ugane khona, and abantu they need to make sure ukuthi umsebenzi wakho runs smoothly is your husband's family ngoba manje usuyingane yasekhaya, usuyingane yabo as well. I hope that answers your question. Do wembethe by yourself without consulting inyanga mthandazi. It doesn't matter where you do it, whether at your house, if married, ekhaya, where you grew up. Okay, so it does depend on if you're married or not. If you're married, you can, first of all, one, you can't do it by yourself. You do not need a healer. 2, it does matter where you do it. If you're married, if you're a woman and you're married, or pelela, so full mtato, and you need to do it at your husband's family's home because you are now you are married to that family. You are a child of that family. Okay. If not, or in the middle of the Yulawara negotiations, or you are married and not seen, then you must do it back at home by your maternal side at your maternal home. I hope that answers your question simply. Okay. Right. Referring to reincarnation. It's not necessarily anyone wembethe. It's just a simple process of ukugeza itongo, uwamukela itongo. That's it. That's all it is. To answer your question, so ukugeza itongo, uwamukela itongo as well. That's it. Welcome itongo, uligeze khona lizokhuluma. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for this question because okay, so she's asking if ingane encane kuthiwa inamagobongo, what does it mean? Should I be worried? Thank you in advance. I don't know how many children you've helped, but guys, ingane that has amagobongo, right? There's an underlying spiritual issue that needs to be dealt with. Leyo ngane ayinayo amagobongo. Kungenzeka ukuthi leyo ngane either umzali, you need to look at what happened ngaphakathi kwakho noba kwengane. Did you do imbeleko for them? Imbeleko yenziwa. Yebo noma cha. Ngesikhathi ukukhulelwa nayo ingane kwenzakaleni bekunomsindo, or what happened when the child was still in your belly? All right? And then after that, going to look at how old is the child as well. Is it a girl or a boy? If they're around the age of 13, 14, 12, but I'm going to get to rituals in another later, 3 weeks time. Okay? But nje indaba ukuthi ingane namagobongo ayi. Isikhathi esiningi inkinga bazali. What have we done? What have we not done between ourselves as parents for ingane? Because issues that are here between myself and mama will always come out ingane as a form of And then inyanga, because they don't address the underlying spiritual issue, and they also don't address umlando wasekhaya. They say ingane namgoboko. Okay, last question, and then I'm sorry guys, we'll have to wrap it up for today. I'll tell you what I will do. I think middle of the week I'll have a question and answer session, which is just going to be purely Q&A for about 2 hours, just question and answer. So please, if you have questions here, write them down, remember them. I'm going to have a Q&A session, which is only going to be question and answer. No teaching, no nothing, just question and answer. Okay. Okay, so someone's asking for a summary. Okay, so we're getting a lot of questions on Ukupahla. I'm going to ask the team to repost the content on Ukupahla, and they're going to repost the videos on Ukupahla. We're going to post English and Zulu content and explanations on Ukupahla for you. We will definitely do that for you. But for now, guys, I'm going to call it a day. If you have any questions, please keep them and remember them. We're going to have a Q&A session in a couple of days. Today's Sunday, so we'll probably have it on Wednesday or Thursday. It's just going to be question and answer. So I'm going to answer all questions in about 2 hours, or add an extra 30 minutes, and it's just going to be questions. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday afternoon. Again, happy and blessed Mother's Day to all mothers. Let's just make the most of the day and bless them and love them as much as we possibly can. And have a lovely and blessed Sunday evening, and good luck for the week to come. Thank you, and good night.